great to have you.
It's a pleasure to
Thank you
be
for
here.
coming here on the Acorn Path. And today I'm going to introduce Mary Pat. She is a financial coach and financial advisor. And I'm going to let her describe a little bit more of what all of that is. Really just wanting to explain that I met Mary Pat, I think now it was 2 years ago. Time is so weird these days.
It is.
So 2 years ago, and I really was looking to expand both my knowledge of finances and my relationship with money to get out of some debt and start to save some more money. I had tried a bunch of different, goal settings and budgets and things. And I really found that your process connected to more about my relationship and just understanding that. So I really hope that we can just talk a little bit about that and share some information that might help a lot of people. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh my God, the whole podcast, you just turned it over to me. No, thank you so much, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here. I love talking about financial coaching and what I do and how the process works for people. My experience with people that I've worked with, it's just been mind-blowing. I love it so much. I am an advisor. I'm a financial coach. The coaching is really the love that I have. I love doing it. It is really where people, it's where the rubber hits the road for people. By financial coaching, what I work at is personal finances and what that means to people and how they act and react to money and getting them back on path. Getting rid of the shame. The difference between a coach and an advisor helps you with investing. And there's a lot of people out there who are, who may need that. And when I meet with people, I tell them exactly what they need. That if they're ready for that, I will tell them you're really at the point where you should have a financial advisor, because some people feel like to just get their lives together, they need to pay money separately for a financial advisor. And that's not always the case. So it's really working on the other side of the fence as a coach that I'm able to kind of introduce and guide people through the process of personal finance, money.
Yeah.
Let's just not call it finance. It's about money.
Yes. Yeah. And, as I had worked with a previous financial advisor, I've worked with you with coaching and advising. I think that for me, the difference was the advisement is there's like questionnaires of what makes sense for you based on what you have and as far as being able to invest, and then what risk level feels okay for you. However, your coaching process and your process though felt more like a intake. So really looking more personally at my relationship, where did I learn certain patterns, where did I pick up on either tools, resources, or vulnerabilities of my spending habits. So I feel like that's not something that you're going to get with an advisor, or even in your role as an advisor. You might be able to say, hey, if we were doing coaching, this is how we could expand on this. But right now as an advisor, this is all we're going to focus on. So I feel like the coaching is kind of an expansion of advisement.
Yes, it is. It's like it's not pre, they could go hand in hand, but you're not paying an advisor to look at your personal spending. You're paying an advisor to help you invest your portfolio. There could be both, there could be one, they could be out of order, it doesn't matter. But I think the purpose, like we just laid out, it's different. And I help people with that. I absolutely help people with that. And to learn, what I've done as part of my coaching too is it's hard for people to meet with an advisor because of the fear of not knowing what you're talking about or what they're talking about, and that you're going to just kind of make a blind decision with your money. So one of the things I do as part of my coaching is prepare people to meet with an advisor if that's where they're at, or if they need to talk about something. In certain cases, someone might have like this floating account that they need addressed, And that might be a conversation with an advisor. And I teach them about that account before they walk in the door to meet with an advisor. And if they even have to, there are different ways to handle, money. But yes, so as one of my coaching services, I do provide information and knowledge about when you walk in the door, when you meet with an advisor, what are the terms, what are the accounts, what's the difference between a 401k, an IRA, a 403b, and so on, so absolutely. And some people might know all that and still have a hard time with personal financing. And we could even talk about what that looks like. And that's fine. So it doesn't mean, I have seen some well-funded 401ks and 403bs. So we're talking about retirement accounts through your employer that you have money taken out automatically. For you, it's different because you're your own boss, you're your own employer. But I have seen people with very well-funded retirement accounts who don't have a handle on their personal spending at all. And so, it doesn't mean one doesn't equal better at the other and vice versa.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think that really making that distinguishment between just because you have more. And I like to look at money. I think we talked. There he is. Hello. Hi. This is Gypsycat. He's never made an appearance on the YouTube channel. So
well,
special guests, all the special guests today. So yeah, I really appreciate the distinguishment between you can have more money and not necessarily have a better handle on it. Mm-hmm. And I think that when I came in, my relationship was, I know how to pay bills. I really appreciated that my dad and my stepmom specifically sat me down when I was younger and showed me, they opened up a credit card for me, but I didn't get to use it. They kept it. I asked, can I put this on there? This is what I've saved to pay that off, and I established credit for myself. And that's absolutely a privilege and a resource that I had. I had parents that were savvy enough to know to teach me that, and then also to establish credit at such a young age. But I only ever learned the spend, pay off method. So I was really good at staying on top of my bills and paying things off until life happens and things, kind of become bigger. You're not getting paid as much, and as a private contractor, I was supplementing my income with credit cards. And I think that that's a pretty standard thing for people these days, a lot of people that can get credit cards. And, I think that I thought I had a good sense of financial responsibility. And I even had my previous advisor look at me, based on the income that I was, get coming in at that point and what I was able to manage. He had said, wow, I have people who have, millions of dollars that are investing that don't have as good of a foundation of responsibility with their finances. And that was really surprising because I did have all that shame going in of I don't have any money saved. I have all this credit card debt, but I want to get something in alignment. And I think that was a good first step for me. But what I learned with you was that money is a resource like any other resource, so we have our food needs, we have our physical needs, our mental, our emotional needs, and then there is this financial thing. We live in this physical reality where money is, transferable between goods and services. And I learned so much 2 years ago about it's not just about that survival mindset around money and where you spend money and you pay things off. It really is about deepening and developing that relationship. So I'm hoping you can say a little bit more from your perspective on that.
Yeah. Oh boy, that was a lot, but yes, absolutely.
Sorry.
Let me unpack that. So, first of all, I wanted to mention, because you said you were brought up where you were taught about money. I was not. So, I share a little bit of, not even a little bit, but pieces of my story when I meet with coaching clients, because first of all, whoever you are and whatever you're going through with money, you're not alone. You're with the majority of people in the world.
Yeah.
Who struggle with money or have a challenging relationship with money or have swinging feelings around money. So, everything I learned, everything I was an adult, everything. And I didn't know really how to spend and save either. And, so that's true. A lot of people, they make their money and then they spend it. And what I like to talk to people about is, I don't use the term budget because I don't like it, because it's like a diet, like pulling back. But what I like to talk to people about is, like, I call them a spending plan, because you're choosing how to spend your money and where to spend your money. And at first it's not very natural, but then it becomes natural. And I like to say to people, listen, I'm not going to be the person to tell you to stop drinking Starbucks so you could save $10 a week. Like, that's your choice. And I had a client who, she was an improviser, comedian, actor. She had a day job. She had she had a lot of stuff going on. And she wouldn't get through that day without, maybe 2 Starbucks a day. I mean, that would throw her way up. That's not what I do. I don't tell people how to spend their money, but I guide them through how to learn what's important to them and where they want to spend their money. Deprivation is a very scary place, and it's the worst, and it does not work. It absolutely does not work. So what happens is people get their paycheck and they put a huge chunk of it towards paying off their credit card. And that, I think, that is where individuals or couples who are in debt, that is a cycle that you never get out of. And the reason why is because you're living in deprivation to pay for things you already own or bought. And because at the end of the month or whenever it is, you don't have money, because you've put it all to your credit card. So there's a chance that if you need something, how are you going to buy that? By using your credit card. And so, there's a way to get out of that cycle. And I think fear and shame, you brought up, I think you said shame, it doesn't do anyone any good. It absolutely does not do anyone good. And not only that, but like, whatever's happening with an individual and their finances or their money or their spending or their feelings, it's typically not their fault. They either didn't learn it, they need to step out and look back in, but typically it's simple to correct. It doesn't mean it's easy. There are ways where almost immediately you feel better about yourself and your relationship with money. Another thing that strikes me, okay, not everyone is going to believe me when I say this or agree with me or even like that I'm going to say this, but a lot of people say money does not bring you happiness. That even when you have money, you find out that has not brought you happiness. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't 100% agree with that. And typically people who say that are people who have money. If you don't have money and you're living in deprivation, it's a very hard place to be. And chances are you're not very happy, or if you're happy, it's like looming. And when you get on track with your money, your spending, your finances, and I'm not saying 100%, just where it's clear where you're going, it brings you happiness.
Yeah.
It really does. It's not a magic pill that you're happy all the time. I mean, life is life. Life always happens. Right. And something may have happened in someone's life that drained their money. That's what I mean. It's not always your fault. When you sharpen your relationship with your finances and your money, chances are some of your depression, self-hatred, shame, those things are lifted and you do become happier. So money is don't be afraid to earn money, to spend money, to be happy about money, to be wealthy, to make money. That's wonderful. And no one needs to be afraid of that. Saving money, paying off debt, being on top of it, like, go for it.
Yeah.
And if you have a group of friends that's not their thing and have a starving actor type of a situation going on, it's like, well, that's not you. And you're allowed to be an actor, comedian, an improviser, a self-employed person, and do really well. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to inherit money. You're allowed to accept gifts from your parents that are monetary. These things are all allowed, and money is a good thing, and it works, and it makes the world go round.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think to your point is problems can exist outside of money. So you can not have a lot of financial assets and be happy.
Sure.
And you can have a lot of financial assets and not be happy. But I think that when you're talking about when you engage with those finances, when you're in deprivation and surrounded with shame around finances, then being able to even make small significant changes around that, it lifts like this emotional and mental burden.
It does.
Around what that is, and remembering, I think what I'm taking away from what you just said, and we haven't used this terminology yet, but I'm going to throw it out there, is that what we were talking about with money being a resource, but specifically that it has an energy, there's a flow to it, and that we can recalibrate our relationship with finances. And again, when we get out of that deprivation, or we start to make small movements towards not just having to deal with money on a survival level, and that's regardless of how much you have in your account. Because I've also worked with plenty of people. It's interesting, as a therapist, sometimes the people I struggle the most with collecting bills from are the people that have plenty of finances or investments, or talking about the new boat that they just bought, but I'm like, yeah, hi, you owe a couple $100 in co-pays, can you pay that? So it is interesting how those things flow or get restricted in different ways. And I don't think that money can buy happiness, but I absolutely think that money can give us some freedom to have more, emotional, mental, physical wealth in our life.
I do think at moments money could buy happiness, though. And you need a car, you get a car, but just throwing around money doesn't buy you happiness. Exactly. Right. You brought up a good thing, like with the energy thing. I believe in that, absolutely. But what I want people to know is there's no secret around money. And I know there's a lot of prosperity talk, and there's a lot of meditation about being prosperous. When The Secret came out, I mean, honestly, The Secret is like all about money, that book and that movie. And here's the thing. There is no secret about money. If you're spiritual or not spiritual, no one is hiding something. That is just how people find peace. So yes, when you start to get real about your money and transparent, and you look at it, it opens doors. And you may have a spiritual experience or an aha moment. It might bring you this, but faith without action really is nothing. You could pray and pray and pray, but you need to take the steps to look at your situation and then learn about it, move forward. And one of the things about money that I like to tell people when I first meet with them is, how do you save money? How do you do it? Dollar by dollar. That's how. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, like a step by step around the world, but And money, once you have money, your money does work for you. It absolutely does. But it's not the lottery. Investing is not the lottery. It has to do with how much you add to your investment, how much you put into it, whether we're looking at a savings account or whatever. But once you get the ball rolling, yes, there is certainly an energy that you've created, and that you are the energy, that you're helping yourself, and you're bringing the positivity to the situation. So I just want to be clear that, like, there's no secret that someone who's very spiritual has, that someone who, if that's not their thing, that they don't have. It's not like, figure it out. It doesn't matter to me.
That's a wonderful message to send out to people, because I know when we started working, you recommended a couple of books, and I'm going to put links to those books in the link below in the video. But I remember reading, and I forget who it's by because I'm horrible with authors, but Prince Charming Isn't Coming.
Oh yeah, Barbara Stanny. And now her name's Barbara Houston. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so that book, is geared towards women, but I really felt like really anybody who feels like they haven't been empowered around money and haven't gotten a good basis of things, because what really stood out to me was part of her story is she is the daughter of, I forget the H or the R of H&R Block. And basically was told her whole life, like, you don't have to worry about money. Like, don't worry about it. And I won't tell the whole story. People can read the book, but essentially, like, she really embodied that message, and then got married and was just like, hey, my husband can do whatever. And he made some really poor decisions with her money, essentially, and she had to start from ground zero. And I think that again, that's kind of a good example of what we're talking about here, is that being, and for me it's about empowerment. When we're talking about that energy, when we're talking about the difference between, oh my gosh, I don't even want to look at my account because I know that I'm just going to feel shame, or I know that there's not really that much money in there, versus what you just said of like, it's dollar by dollar. So even if I only have $25 left in my balance, it's like, okay, well, how do I want to make this work for me? Can I put 5 of that somewhere else to, again, shift I'm going to skip a Starbucks today, put that $5 in a different account so that I can just start to set something aside for the investment in my future. And I can honestly tell you that, again, even though I feel really blessed and privileged, I had a foundation, the work that we did, I still struggled, 6 to 8 months, even after I had all the tools you gave me and had read these books. And
it's a journey. It is an absolute
exactly.
I don't come in with my coaching clients and like solve all their problems. Again, it's not, nothing is the lottery except the lottery, and so nothing works like that. There's no magic to it, but there are like different pathways of looking at it.
And until I started really actually journaling, weekly, or journaling around, oops, I went and did this impulsive thing. What was that really about? What was I feeling at that time? And when I started to go again into those depths and really understand for myself, you gave me some tough love, which was very appreciated and welcome. And that really rang true inside of me. And so I really shifted my mindset at that point of, okay, if I really am serious about what I want for my future and how I want to engage with finances and this energy of money in my life, then I do need to make different changes, because I was kind of like, I can use these new tools and the old methods, and was kind of trying to balance both. And I took that to heart, and I can honestly say that since that point, about a year and a half ago, I really made some drastic improvements in my situation. And I think that what you were saying of it doesn't take very much, like there's almost, and it's not a secret and it's not magical, but there is almost like, and I think probably for each individual, because at different points of my life, this like hitting $500 in my savings account when I was 20 something was huge,
Right.
and then getting to $1,000 was like, oh my God, I have $1,000 in savings, and then when you get to multiple thousands of dollars, it's like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm this person, and so it does kind of start to, when you get those, and I'm going to say dopamine hits and release of like, oh, wow, this feels really good. This feels empowering to know the choices that I've made, the relationship I have is contributing to this place I want to be. And I can't speak enough to how that journey, and I'm continuing to be on that journey and continuing to
It's a lifelong.
yeah. And so I wanted to speak to that of both from a standpoint of what you specifically, helps me with, and how having, whether it's you or being able to, for people out there to try and find, somebody who can talk without shame and with acceptance, and also if you need some tough love, to be able to look at you and say like, hey, you're allowed to do whatever, but if this isn't working for you and you're not meeting your goals, then, I think that being able to recognize those steps and tools and that journey is really, that's why I have you here. That's what we're talking about in regards to, and that's going to look different for each individual person and how they're living in their authenticity for what works for them.
Right. Well, I think so much stuff came up when you were talking. I should have jotted down a couple notes because I'm afraid I'm not going to get to everything, but whatever. I mean, you don't tell people how to reach me. A couple things. Well, it is funny that you mentioned the tough love. So I just want people to know, like, I don't dole out tough love. You invited.
I asked for that.
You did. You absolutely did. You had me over. You said, I want to share with where I'm at right now. Because you wouldn't have mentioned certain things if you weren't asking for tough love. But you, your growth at that point, you were basically, I've learned this from a friend, and I love to say this, you jumped the fence at that meeting. And I love the term jumping the fence. It was like, you were right up to that point when you invited me over for that session. And then I said a couple things to you that weren't like, great, cool, you're doing great. I was like, here's the skinny. Here's where you are. And it's up to you. These are the changes. And you jumped the fence and you were like, yeah. So I don't meet with someone the first time and just get all. It's all about that. I really just introduce them to stuff. People make the change. I don't make any of the change. But the one thing that I cannot stress, and I'll say this over and over until our interview is done, it's not about deciding where you don't want to spend money. It's about deciding where you want to spend your money. Yeah. Where do you want to spend your money? So it's not deciding I'm going to quit my gym because that'll save me, Planet Fitness $10 a month, you know what I mean? But again, if you are paying for things that are insignificant to you, then look at that, or just look at where you want to spend your money. And I'll tell you, writing and looking at your monthly expenses is so helpful. And it can be scary and daunting, but I help people. And one of those things, like a monthly spending plan, is where individuals know if they want to move forward with coaching and straightening up their finances. And if they get to that point and they're like, yeah, I didn't get to it, or I didn't feel like it, then you really, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's like, that is really how you look at your money. I mean, again, there's no secret to doing this without taking the steps to make it happen. And I just introduce people to those steps. When you had $1,000, like when you had $500, how you felt when you had $1,000. You know, the thing about when you're in deprivation mode, or the stage of deprivation, which is not permanent, but you feel like you have so little. I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about possessions. You feel like, I need clothes, I need makeup, I need to buy a new bike, and I can't do that. And you get resentful. Food. But even like above that, yes, but like some people are like, I can't shop at Whole Foods, and I can't buy my special bread, and I can't, hey, those things are important to me. I have a whole refrigerator filled with like my specialty food. Whatever it is, I can't like buy my almonds. You know, it's like, but also stuff that is like, stuff that you just want. It doesn't have to be a necessity. The thing about that is when you see your savings account grow, which again is not magical, and it is possible, even if you're in debt, I promise you, even if you have $1 million in debt, I will teach you how to save money and feel better about it. But you have $500, you have $1,000, and saving $1,000 seems impossible to people, or you start to grow even that snowball. You not only do you not feel so deprived, but you start making decisions about where you want to spend your money. So when you have no money and you have $500 come in from somewhere, or a tax rebate, or a bonus or something like that, you typically want to spend that money on something you need or want, and you feel better, and you do feel better. But if you start to save that money while living your life, and you have, let's say, $5,000, you're going to be very careful about how you spend that money. So what you thought you needed, a whole closet full of clothes, you might think, well, if I get these black pants, that'll get me to next month. And by the way, in your spending plan, in mine, it's important to me to have clothes on there, because I deprived myself from having new clothes for so long. It was painful. It's in my spending plan. And I know, like, when you are talking to a financial advisor, you think they have a plethora of money, and that's not necessarily true. Financial advisors sometimes need financial advisors too, because there's just too much emotion wrapped up in saving and spending. So all professionals need other professionals on their team. Yeah. So
therapists need to go to therapy, you know?
Yes. That's a great point. But I don't want people to think like easy for her to say. She's an advisor. She makes a ton of money. I went through a horrific financial stage in my life. It got me where I am today, and I'm still building. I'm still making my life better and where I want it to be.
Do you feel like that actually helps you understand people in those states a little bit better because you went through that?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I would not be a financial coach right now if I hadn't gone through that. Yes, I mean, I really feel empathy for people and want to let them know, like, drop the shame, start rebuilding.
Yeah.
You have so much to live for. And the better things in the world, you have access to that. They're not just for other people. Vacations aren't just for other people. Nice outfits aren't just for other people. Shopping at Whole Foods, it's not just for other people. So you are deserving. You deserve financial happiness and stuff. Like, people feel so bad, like, if they want stuff, and it's like, enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to come back to this. We've said shame and we've kind of addressed it. And I want to just really pinpoint that shame comes in lots of variations and colors for people. Most basic foundational definition is it's about who we see ourselves as or how we think other people are seeing us as. I call it, and I take this from Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, but I call it the shame gremlins. I feel like it kind of takes like different shapes and colors and kind of turns into this, horde of gremlins that kind of just like attaches itself. So as soon as you try to step out of your comfort zone in regards to this subject matter with money, those shame gremlins come and jump on top of you mentally, and they're just like, who do you think you are? You're never going to be able to accomplish this. I think some of that also comes from like a transgenerational pattern, obviously, too, of like, we've touched upon that. So I think that this idea of shame and just being able to move past it, that's where I think getting professionals involved. So whether it is your coach, which again, I really appreciate, I know you're not a licensed therapist, but your process is a little more therapy based. And also, if you have a therapist, see if they're comfortable. It's interesting, as a therapist, we're not trained in finances, obviously, but the feelings around what you're experiencing with it are really important. And not all therapists might feel comfortable because of their own stuff, but I think it's worth, if you're working with any professional, to at least bring up what you're feeling around your spending or your deprivation and shame.
I should tell people my process of coaching so that they're comfortable if they would like to contact me, what that looks like. But one of the things that I ask them is two. The first one is, what's your first memory of money, period? Yeah. And have gotten great answers. And if they're like, what, then I'll ask that question a different way. And then the second thing is, how do you feel about money? Like, what are your thoughts about money? Just like that. And people say really interesting things. Also about the shame and the burden and the heaviness. Not all people who call me for coaching have debt. Not everyone has debt. But for those individuals who do have debt, one of the things I've noticed is that 100%, if not close to 100%, of their thinking around money, of the time they spend thinking about money, is focused at their debt. It's all focused at their debt. And one of the things I do is kind of help them wean off of that and focus on the savings and self-care and whatever that looks like for them. And it's like, okay, this exists. Here's how we're going to address this. Okay, it's being addressed. So you don't have to think about it or look at it every day because you've set a plan of action to address that. You don't even have, you could look at it, don't not look at it, but let's start thinking about these things. And I think right there, because you're not burying yourself in that every day, immediately some of that shame goes away because money's not all about debt. There's that. And then another thing about like therapy, for sure I'm not a therapist, and for sure I have a therapist because we all got our stuff, Jessica. It runs really deep. It runs very deep. And so I have experienced, and I have asked individuals, like, are you working with a therapist? Have you mentioned this? So although I asked them to bring up some stuff through my questions, it's about them, and we're able to talk a little bit about that. And it is, it is eye-opening. And then sometimes it's like, well, maybe you should consider seeing a professional to work through this stuff. And I'll help you over here, that you could go a little deeper with that. Resentments against other people, etc. And then I also wanted to say one of the things that worked very well for me, and I know you're a big fan of writing, as are a lot of the mutual friends that we have together. A financial inventory is an amazing tool, an amazing tool. I did that myself right after my mom passed away. Like all of these memories came up, and a lot of stuff came up that had to do with finances and money throughout my entire life. Hey, I love my mom, and there are some things, you know, I love my family, but there's stuff like there's generational history. So a financial inventory could look exactly like anyone wants it to look like. For me, it was a timeline, but then something would come back up and I'd draw an arrow like that really happened up here. And once you get going on that, it really does flow out of you. And again, it could be anything you wanted. For me, it was a lot of memories, a lot of experiences, a lot of damage that I put on myself, and a lot of beliefs that were put on me. It was really helpful with the shame and the resentment that I had against people, because what you do is like, again, this is not a blanket statement. For me, once I got all that out in writing, first of all, it's like, take a deep breath. There's a history.
Yeah.
It's not just in your mind. It's not in your, it really happened. And then you could think, okay, well, what do I need to do from here? How do you change the cycle and better yourself and rewire your mind? So I'm a huge fan of the financial inventory. I think it's fantastic. And hey, if trauma comes up, which there's a good chance it will, talk to your trauma therapist about that.
Yeah, yes. And, you know, I will say, as a therapist, I have gotten a lot more comfortable. I think I, again, was set up in my career where at a time where I was very dependent on whether or not my clients paid me, on whether or not I could pay my bills.
Right.
I didn't have a choice but to collect that money. So I feel like that was actually a skill set and an opportunity for me at that time, because I know a lot of therapist friends and colleagues that feel really uncomfortable about talking about money, even from a standpoint of a business transaction. I know that I've been in a lot of trainings where the person conducting the training is like, you're doing a service, like you've gone and gotten education, like you deserve to get paid for your time. It's wonderful that you're compassionate and you understand that, you know, people struggle. And I think that actually as a therapist, whether or not our clients are bringing it up, if someone's struggling even in our sessions, I think it's so valuable to say, what is this really about? And be honest about, I am a human, you know, and I love to do what I do, and I feel so great about that. And
Mhm.
also, I know that if I feel like someone's not paying their bills, it's hard for me to show up all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I feel that it's my responsibility, especially now that I own my own practice. I tell people, look, you can always come to me. I will always work things out with you. I'm never going to punish you because something's come up in your life and you can't pay your copays. Like, I will work with you, but if you're not bringing it up to me and I see that you know, have $300 worth of copays, I'm going to tell you that you have to pay a percentage of that like immediately, and that we need to use some of the session to talk about that, because it's not fair to you. I would hate that if I was accruing, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of debt, that somebody wouldn't bring that up to me or call attention of like, hey, this seems to be getting kind of out of hand. And then when you're $800 in debt, it's really it emotionally weighs on you. So that's how I approach that as a therapist, even just with my clients. And I've been so relieved, especially since I did this process with you, when people are like, I don't even know if this is appropriate to bring up, but I'm really struggling financially. And I'm like, yay, I love that you're bringing this up. I'm not a financial coach. I'm not a financial advisor. And I am very clear about, I'm not going to give you financial advice, but I do want to talk about what is this doing in your life, affecting your relationships and even your ability to show up to work and not feel resentment and all of that. So I feel like and as a therapist too, and I think you probably get this as a coach, once you open some doors for people, it is amazing what starts to pour out and what that all gets interconnected with.
Right, exactly. And the thing with resentment, hey, well-meaning resentment, like,
Yeah,
man,
this isn't working for me.
yeah, it's like, yeah, you should have resentment, but let's work on that resentment. But that should not keep you from taking action around your money. It's like, work on your resentment with your therapist and take action to help you move forward. Like, let's not bring your mother, father, whoever, your ex-spouse, that's a big one. Let's plan for you moving forward to take care of yourself. Absolutely. Yeah, it's complicated. And I want to tell you, and any other therapist who might watch this, therapists are not the only ones who struggle with getting paid. Attorneys do, other professions where people bill people don't get paid. I mean, it is, and not only is it hard and not fair to you, to the person, it's a burden. You'd be so surprised, like when you just write the check or the Venmo or the Zelle or whatever, the cash, it's off, it's gone, like immediately gone from your shoulders.
My responsibility as the professional to be able to address that for other professionals, like you were saying, for yourself as an advisor and continuing that journey, and on any other professional. I think that's important for us to realize, like, what is our responsibility in that relationship for having the conversations that are hard, that are uncomfortable, probably for us and for them.
Yeah.
But like you said, as soon as we kind of clear the air and stop avoiding this, and we come to some kind of like terms of agreement that we can both move forward from, it feels better for everybody.
It does. It does. It absolutely does. And money's powerful, and lack of, it's powerful. And I mean, my God, listen to us. Like, this conversation, it runs really deep. You've done an amazing job, not only with personal, but you've shared a little bit about the services and the work you do with other people for your business finances. It's amazing. I mean, it keeps going. And I also have a lot of people, I want to mention this. I know we're like getting towards the time, but a lot of people, when I meet with them, and a lot when in the advisor role, say, I don't know anything about money. So I'm like, really, they might use the word stupid, but like, I know nothing. So whatever you say is going to be foreign to me. And what I want people to know is, like, yes, the universe of money and investing, it's very large. I don't know a lot of it. That's why there are different people in different areas. I'm not a financial analyst, but I'm an advisor and I'm a financial coach. But what individuals need to know is, like, it is finite. There is like enough that you need to know. And then you get a service provider. And then, you know what I mean? You could Google stuff, but there's a point where it's like, those are blanket statements. Take what applies to you, but be careful with that. But right, you're not going to know everything, but just through a conversation, when I meet with people for an hour, sometimes I'll say to them, you told me you didn't know anything about money. Now, even just from this conversation, you know so much more about money. Shame comes in there too. So
yeah, I think that's like a good ending message too. If we encapsulate all of this, and I'll let you kind of do your own encapsulation, but I feel like the real takeaway is that there is no secret. There is no one way to figure out what money means to you and how that looks in your life. And that really this idea of the best thing you can do is just really sit down for yourself and figure out where do I want to be, and what are the tools or the resources that I might need. And that includes the knowledge. What level of knowledge or resources, research do I want to invest in? I think that that would be one final thought I would have, is investments in ourselves is much more than money. And so money is a part of that future investment, but our knowledge, our empowerment, what makes us feel confident and strong is the stuff that slowly shrinks that shame and that fear over time. And I think that's the most, empowering investment that anyone can make alongside with their money.
You don't have to buy a book. Like, you don't have to, start reading the business section or the money section of the Tribune, Chicago Tribune, but like, the learning part is just, I feel like everything we said today was like a takeaway. But I think just the first step is just be aware of where your money's going. Write it down. It doesn't have to be like on a big graph or something like that. That's the first step. If we have a moment, I just wanted to talk about like what my coaching services look like. So if someone's interested.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love for you to put that out there.
Yeah. So what I do is, first of all, a 15-minute phone call just to consult to make sure that I'm a fit for people, that we're a fit. And there are people who I'm not a fit for because they're really looking for something that I can't provide. An accountant, for example, or an advisor, be like, well, you're really beyond the coaching. Like, this would be a better fit for you. But a lot of people, then I am a fit. And so I just take notes and we chat for 15 minutes. If it goes longer than that, I typically know that they're a fit. So that goes into the first session. I meet with people. It's one fee for 3 sessions after the consultation. And the first session is just simply getting to know you. I ask a lot of questions. I share a lot about myself and my own story. We talk about just a couple things. We volley back and forth. It's quite comfortable, and it's so I could get to know you and you could get to know me. And then the second session is the action plan. So I come back based on what we've talked about, and I come back and there's an action plan. I just want to make sure everyone knows the first conversation is not 100% about debt. We do touch on that, but it's so much more. And then the second session is the action plan. And so we learn what we have to do. And then the third session is the follow-up to make sure that you're working with integrity. And then after that, it's kind of an as needed basis. So my sessions are around an hour. If you're in the middle of like a really important thing, I'm not like 60 minutes by. And so it varies, because it's not a drop by situation. Like, I'll drop by and talk with a coach and my life will be so much better. It's not. Like, my services are an investment for you, and it could be a really life-changing experience. Not me. The work that you end up doing could really be a life-changing experience. When you pay for a service, you tend to be more serious about that service. So absolutely. So that's it. And I love coaching people. I absolutely just find people fascinating. I've enjoyed everyone I've met with. Everyone has a story. And if you want to call, I would love to hear from you. Yeah. You've gotten my name from Jessica or from this podcast, and just let me know. Just let me know.
What I will do is I'm going to put your full name. We'll put your professional email down, and then that way, if people are interested. And I guess a good question is, because this might be anywhere in the United States, not just
Oh,
or even other countries. So people can feel free, no matter where they are or what they're doing, to like reach out to you. And if you feel like it's a good fit, then you'll be able to help them.
absolutely. Yes. I've had a couple clients because I was thinking one was from California and we're still very much in touch. She did not know she was a wealth builder. And she came to me to figure out her finances, and we were a good fit. We just looked at the continuum of savings from a bank account to a retirement account, everything in between. We met and I said, you're a wealth builder. I don't think you know that. And she was like, oh God, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I said, stop. I am telling you, and you better get used to it. You are a wealth builder. And she started crying. And I was like, hello, welcome to meeting yourself. So, there's joy to be had. Joy to be had.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful story and message to land on. So, well, yeah, thank you so much, Mary Pat, and it's been a pleasure just talking about all of this with you. I know that both of us feel like I can feel the energy, so it's like I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours, but it's been such a great introduction, and I really appreciate you being here.
Well, Jessica, it is my pleasure. And I adore you as a person. I think you are a fantastic professional. And I think you're just like a wonderful human being. So thank you for having me. It is my pleasure. Anytime you want me to come back, even if it's for a 15-minute hello tweak.
Yeah.
Come back anytime. So thank you.
I would love to have return guests. So
yes, a tune-up, a financial tune-up.
Yeah, tune-ups. I love that. Okay, great.